to Versus. 604 presents Versus. I'm Kevvy. With me, as always, or at least this one time, is Charlie Kerr.
Hi, I'm him.
So tell me about this crippling sugar addiction that you're just kicking. You said it's easy, but that's the thing is we just toured for 5 weeks, and I feel like you're a late night snack guy.
I certainly am, but I think I'm just like sort of like a weird all or nothing person, and so once it was like I'm not going to do it at all, that's easier for me to conceive in my mind than doing it a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess a little bit of anything makes no sense to me. And my brother was letting me know how much that drove him absolutely bonkers about me.
Really? Like you couldn't just dabble? Like if you're going to watch Air Bud 1, you're going to watch all of them?
Completionist.
Absolutely.
Seventh inning fetch.
Golden receiver.
So I think that's like, as I get older, I guess that's like something I kind of know about me. Is that like I am, it's the same as like I got into doing 5-minute planks.
I saw that. I saw you making Amanda Powell do it between hot dogs.
So it was the same sort of thing as like I did it for a year straight every day, and one of those days I had a flight, and so I was like, whatever, I didn't do it, I'll make up for it tomorrow or whatever. And then I didn't do it for weeks on end. I just have a strange brain that goes like, do the thing you said you were going to do every day.
That's true.
And sort of getting off track of that sort of leads to, I guess, apathy and chaos. And I suppose on some level, I don't know. It doesn't have to make sense or be right for anyone. I've just sort of learned what works for me. And like I said, it drives my brother crazy because he's super on like that, like cheat day work to live kind of vibe, and I'm much more
how unrelatable. How unrelatable is that? For real. Can you imagine? Yeah. Like, I'm just gonna write a song during the 9 to 5. Like you and I are psychos, I think, and that's why when we started co-writes, they just started. Like how many new songs would we have in like a very short time? You know,
it's like, yeah, it feels like double digits for sure.
Yeah, and it was easy.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I think, and I are sick in the same way.
Yeah,
and that is just sort of what you need to find in it's sort of like that adage of like, I don't know, it's like that corny like relationship advice of like everyone's going to be crazy. You just have to find your crazy, you know?
So romantic though. So romantic.
But yeah, so I think that sort of applies in art, like harder than anywhere. Like, I'm so fortunate to be making music with who I make music with, because I think like my personality would probably drive 90% of people crazy, but I've just locked into some people who get the most out of it.
It's interesting though, because I think you're a pretty easy personality to be around, at least for me. Like, I don't really, you're not confrontational. You're like nice to everybody. You like to just like, we could kind of deep dive any topic when we hang, you know?
So, yeah.
But your brother's just so mad at you for not
for not sort of having a normie sort of approach to moderation or
right.
sort of anything really, if I think about it. I just go hard.
Yeah. You go hard in the paint. You're like, what's that vegan rapper's name? Forgetting his name now. Waka Flocka.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's one of those kind of rappers where I can't quote anything.
That's true. It's very true. You know what I love is that both our fan bases, which we share a lot of the same fan base, probably have no idea that you and I kind of only talk about basketball, rap, and Fast and Furious comedy. That's right.
Yeah. And of course, the Fast movies. Yeah. I mean, I think that is the secret weapon of both bands, is understanding that 90% of the good lyrical concepts and sort of ingenuity and inventiveness is in hip hop. Like what we bring to the table in rock and roll is like, it's only interesting because it's got the like rock and roll sort of outfit on. But if it was just hip hop, it would be standard.
Totally.
And that's kind of what I want the kids to know, who, like, I don't know. I don't trust anybody who doesn't listen to hip hop. To me, that feels like immediately racist, because it's like, it's so obviously just how the culture moves and where everything sort of interesting has been happening in music for about 15 years.
Having grown up around a bunch of goths with a bunch of weird self-inflicted rules, that it can come from that too, where it's like, no, I listen to the Bauhaus and that's it. I can't get into this, like, you know what I mean? Which did you ever have a phase like that? Because as a teenager, it was like, okay, I'm a metal guy now, and then I left that, and it's like, okay, I'm a early hardcore guy, and then okay, I'm a goth guy. Like, I just like was searching for an identity so badly that I genre hopped, and then when I was like 18, I was like, I actually just like everything, including this Nelly Furtado album. Whoa, Nelly, great album.
Yeah, I mean, there's some hits on there. I think the only one, I think if I look back and think about like being more piloted by shame than I care to admit, I missed out on some of my favorite bands playing concerts and some of my favorite music and connecting to people I probably really, really would have gotten along with.
Yeah. Like who?
Via not copping to how much of an emo I really was on the inside.
I love it. You were embarrassed to like The Used or something, or what?
The Used, MCR. No, like one of the worst moments of my life is I had the chance to see MCR at a thing called V-Fest on my birthday. And it was such a cool era for him. He, I guess, Gerard probably just dyed his hair back to black and shot the Teenagers video.
Okay.
So this is like Black Parade, whatever. And they're headlining V-Fest with Billy Talent playing right before. So I catch Billy Talent, I catch AFI. It's really good. But then my brother's hipster friends who I like invited to my birthday, they were a bit older and they were like, you don't want to stick around for this shit, do you? Like,
hate
MCR? That. And I went, nah, let's go home. Let's beat the traffic. Let's not fucking see what is now one of my favorite bands of all time.
They probably were at the time too. You just didn't want to admit it to your brother's hipster friends.
Totally, man. And here's the thing about growing up on the West Coast is like, I was explaining this the other day. It's like, I got bullied for not liking Jack Johnson, for not liking the Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, so I think they were really into like, God, like Justice and Rat-a-Tat and Radiohead and shit. And like, I love all those groups, but not in any sort of way that like,
those are safe groups to like, though.
Makes me dislike MCR. Yeah.
It's so safe to like stuff like that. And that stuff is all great, too. You and I talked about this a lot. Because remember I teased you one time about loving Metallica and the Lakers. And then we've talked about it for 5 weeks and I felt bad every single time.
That's one of my favorite like interactions we've ever had. I learned so much about myself in that moment. Because
I still feel bad.
Really? Because you shouldn't, man. That's one of my favorite things. But I'm such a
guy who, like, I want you to like the stuff you love. I love when people really love the stuff they love, and you really love those two things, and I love them too, actually. I don't know what it was. It was just the way that conversation went. It went roasty for a second, and I felt bad ever since.
I think you didn't understand that sometimes that I poke fun. I think you were just about to sound check. It was a bunch of different things, and I think I was like saying something about like probably Megadeth or like.
Look at my hair right now. Who do you think I'm trying to emulate?
You've got a real Mustaine situation. So I think I mentioned that, and then you were like, yeah, it must be hard, like liking the biggest band in the world and the most popular sports franchise that ever existed.
I'm such a jerk.
No, but it's cool for me to like to have the bubble burst a tiny bit and embrace the fact that I like things that are for the masses. Like I have a great deal of tolerance for pretentiousness. Like I like things that are subversive and against the grain, but that doesn't mean that I don't also love things that are ahead of the pack. Anyone who is truly ahead of the pack at whatever they're doing will make me take an interest. If somebody truly is like the Michael Jordan of what they're up to, it doesn't really matter the genre. I'll be like, okay, I got to check that out. Like, I don't love musicals, but I get why people are obsessed with Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah, I feel the same way where I want to, if I don't get it, I want to know why people love it so much. But I actually think that's a big key to why you're such a great artist, is because you embrace underground culture and mainstream culture equally. And that's actually what Rick Rubin said about himself and why he's a good, because he's like, I have no talent actually other than that I just have opinions about how art should be, and it's just from being a fan. Because he's like saying he moved to New York as a kid, like loving Aerosmith, and everyone he encountered there thought Aerosmith was mainstream garbage, and he was like, why? Well, what's better? And then it was like happened to be like the earliest hip hop, and then he was like, oh, that is cool, but I still like Aerosmith too, like, you know what I mean? And that's why he is a great producer.
Oh man, I love that story.
Yeah
it's that's so cool. Like so I worked with somebody once, Jamie Silverstein, who produced and was the touring bass player for Miguel.
Cool.
And he got a hold of me because he loved speaking off the record, and he was like, I would love to write with you on something. So all of a sudden I was in LA and writing with him every day. and we were working on a song that ended up being The Age of Detachment, which is the like closing track of the I'm Not Myself record. And it was, he had written either the chord progression or whatever it was, but the timing of the melody was hard for me because I didn't really understand what I was supposed to be doing. So we were, and he's an amazingly talented dude. And so he pointed out like, hey man, you are rushing these vocals every single time. Like you're not getting it. You need to like figure out your timing. And so I was like, oh fuck, like I'm always so early with my singing. Like I desperately want to be able to like hang back and be cool like Frank Ocean and like whatever it is.
In the backbeat.
Exactly. And like push and pull the rhythm, because I understand that like phrasing is sort of so much of singing. And then so I was like beating myself up a bit about it as I was doing more takes. Like I was like, I know, I gotta figure that out. That's my next frontier of singing, etc. And then he went, but you have a clear idea of what you find cool, and that is going to beat talent, and that is going to beat like any technical ability that anybody else has. If you have vision, almost the rest is like it's much harder to have zero vision and a ton of talent than have a ton of vision and
without
zero
question
talent.
Vision is way more important. Musical talent, how many people do you know were put in music lessons as kids and they're like virtuoso piano players and they don't even really like music? It's like almost doesn't matter, you know?
It's tons, but yeah, it's so funny. Like, it's just, I think any sort of ability or aspect to myself that, that doesn't feel like I've worked for it feels less valuable.
Right.
To me, like in a relationship context too, I remember, being with somebody and, I don't know, you're just doing that dorky thing where you're asking each other, like, why do you even like me? Whatever. and they pointed out like, well, you know, you're a great listener and you're really kind and like you try to do the right thing. And like I had this funny existential crisis because it was all stuff that came naturally to me. And these things that I worked so hard for, to seem intelligent, to be well read, to like the right music, to like to be a singer, to be an actor, to be a writer, like all these things were not the draw. The draw was the thing that came naturally. Yeah. And it was just like, it's funny. Like I think about that in the context of like what we value about ourselves. It's very rarely, I think, the thing that comes naturally. Yeah. Well, especially if you're someone who's very critical of your own skill set and you're always trying to improve, the things that come naturally probably you kind of take for granted, you know? Yeah, totally. It's true. And yeah, I mean, it's like, not to get like so heavy, but like once I've accomplished something, it doesn't impress you anymore. It must have been bullshit. Yeah, it must have been bullshit. The exact same way. Or I'll be like, well, I should have accomplished this a long time ago. So really, yeah, I'm late to that. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I told somebody the other day, just like, man, like just an X-Men, like mutant power level ability to explain to you why the cool things I've done aren't cool. Like, I appreciate that angle, that like what I've consumed and the stories that I wanted to tell and the way I wanted to tell them. It's like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're sort of saying that like, you think that's like an interesting or cool or integral part of the artistry.
For sure.
That I've gotten up to.
Absolutely. And I think like, like I've been a music producer for a long time.
Yeah.
I like to hire people to engineer that love engineering. I don't love engineering. I love creating the song and writing and producing, but we know a lot of people who like love making a drum kit and getting sounds from it. So you should hire that guy to do that. And you should hire this person to mix because they are passionate about that. It's like, so I feel like, your thing you love doing is writing songs, telling stories, and performing. So that's why you're so great at it, and I think, it's funny though, because, you and I were talking about how there's like a weirdness between like vocalists and bands, and it's like you just kind of have to crack the surface and then you're like, I love you. And I feel like that happened to us like last year, you know what I mean? And then but the weird thing is that drummers all love each other for some reason, and I don't get it. Like, why do you guys like each other so much right away?
I think it's a shared their burden is identical, right? They all chose
gambling addiction.
To be in the back.
It's true. Yeah.
And carry the most shit.
That's true.
They are on paper, your drummer should be the ultimate collaborator.
Yeah.
And that brings a personality that is not meant for the lead guitar and not meant for the singer.
It's so true. But I feel like we've played with drummers in our past that wanted to be the front man.
And that like, and certain bands, that's exactly why, that's the secret sauce of a couple bands Party. I can think of. Like some Mars Volta records, like the drummer
John
really
Theodore
gets to be
rules.
Thomas Predrin, man. Like,
yeah.
Anyhow, so like sometimes you do get to be the star of the show in that role. But yeah, like, why do they all like each other? I think they're maybe the least competitive.
Yes.
In terms of their own gig, they're able to go, like, I guess once you can keep time, the rest is just like the choices you're making.
It's so true.
So it's like, and obviously this is major, like capital M major generalizations, but that's what I'd chalk it up to. I think guitarists too, like they're I think because of like the old days and whatever, it's like there was a chunk of time where like a crackerjack guitar player was kind of dime a dozen. So you had to be incredible even as teenagers. So I think other guitar players just made you go like, yeah, this is an audio medium. I don't know why I did a video gag.
I think it looked great. I think
I made myself like really macho, if you can believe it.
I believe it.
So I don't know, and then singers, I think it's almost like just too many spinning plates, like too much persona and work and insecurity and what have you to necessarily connect easily with another singer. I was told by old bandmates of mine, which is sort of like an eye rolly way. They were just like, oh, like singers. And it's like, so there must be truth to that. Like it's simultaneously haunts me and none of my business.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a very healthy. You and I are a couple of therapy guys, and that's where we became okay with something like that. That's good. I gotta do that.
You know, being able to let things go. Yeah. Yeah, like that's sort of that those dynamics I think are usually how it plays out.
Yeah.
I've had a weird string of bassists in terms of personality.
Well, your current one is insane.
He is
I'm absolutely joking. He's one of my best friends in the world. But yeah,
he's the best, and just like has a beautiful personality.
He really brings people together in a way I've never seen anybody else do. And he's very calm about it too. Like he makes friendships happen all the time.
He's got a talent for it. I mean, like, yeah, I didn't put too much thought into him becoming my bassist beyond liking him as a person and then thinking he was talented. And then when we got together, it turned out like we grew up on all the same shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys have very similar tastes.
I'm lucky. Like my bandmates are my best friends, and it sort of worked in the order opposite of what you'd think. We sort of started as colleagues, and then I made a really like bold like guidebook of like how I wanted things to work.
Yeah.
And people were on board, and then so
yeah,
the timing was just amazing that
it's kind of magical.
They had faith in what I wanted to do, and it started to work out probably in the exact time frame it needed to, for people to not jump into the ego of saving face or hating each other or whatever it was. Like, I am bewildered at the alchemy and timing of us individuals coming together.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way about my band, and our bands just did like a long tour together, and it was like the most harmonious and fun month of my life. For real.
It doesn't have to be, fucking horrible, man. Like, oh man, it's like, yeah, I think part of that is just like everybody has been on the road. Everybody knows that they like it or tolerate it or whatever. Like, I think that for some people, it's just such a shock. It's such a shift if you're a control freak in a certain way. Yeah, it's gonna be your nightmare. And totally. And I was talking to a friend of mine who went on a really successful support slot tour, and they were just letting me know everything that they like hated about it and what was difficult and and they learned a lot, whatever. But I couldn't help thinking to myself the whole time, like, all the shows were sold out. Yeah. Like, you had the only ingredient of a tour that needs to be there. Yeah. Like, the rest of it falls into place. Yeah. And not even like, if basically, like, if you're still having a good time when everything's going against you on the road, you're laughing. But basically, like, my therapist broke it down to me probably 6 years ago. I was tripping on what if it doesn't work out? What if this? What if that? Whatever. So I think one day he was probably just like sick of hearing all the fear, and he was like, if I'm getting this right, you and your close friends get in a van and then play your songs for a group of strangers that really connect to them, and everybody has a really good time. Well, I think that gives you joy in such a way that no one else needs to understand it.
That's so true.
Like it doesn't actually need to become quote unquote successful for you to keep doing this, as long as it's interesting to you. If you can enjoy it at this stage, then whatever happens next is gravy. And just really, he just hammered into me this idea of no one else needs to get it. Just being so consumed by judgment, so consumed by shame, so consumed by success. But then there's such a flicker of hope when you understand that your heaven is somebody else's hell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know.
And there's no point in me campaigning for explaining why my purpose gives me purpose.
Yeah, well, you can't explain your own passions to other people if they just don't have them, you know?
It's
just not how it works.
I wish I knew that younger.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, buddy, thanks for coming and doing this. Also, you look like a young, handsome Wolverine right now. Congratulations on your release.
I'm gonna go see that soon. Doesn't it feel like they've been promoting that movie for a decade?
Yeah, but then when it came out, I'm like, it's out?
Yeah, I had the same feeling. The other day, a friend of mine was like, "You want to go see Wolverine?" And I was like, "You mean the movie that comes out in a year?"
Yeah, you're like, I'm already seeing Longlegs with Maurice, so I don't know. I don't think
Round 2.
Well, she told me how much she loved it. She's like, I'm going with Charlie this week.
It's so good. It's such a cool little movie. I mean, if you're a Cage head, it's such a must.
I have to wrap this up, but I have to talk to you about this movie because we saw it, and at the end, his last line before credits rolled, I actually went, fuck off.
Really?
In a way where it was just, I had such visceral reactions all the way through it, and those are the best kind of movies. And in retrospect, I really loved it. But his performance, the mixing of the tone of the way he was with everybody else and the settings on the movie, I've never seen that before, because it reminded me of Silence of the Lambs in some ways. And then it's like they put a character from, what's the Nick Kroll animated show?
Big Mouth?
It's like they put someone from Big Mouth in Silence of the Lambs. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? And so in retrospect, I really appreciate the decisions he made, and I want to watch it again.
Well, he swings for the goddamn fences.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had a friend, I think about a year ago, she expressed to me that Nick Cage was her favorite actor.
Yeah.
And I was like kind of thinking about poking holes in it and being like, whatever, really? And then she said,
yeah,
name somebody who commits harder.
That's so true. It's very true. And he really did that.
Like, and then I was like, fucking good point. Like, yeah. And I've always loved him. He's not my favorite by any means, but, like I said, man, it's, there's that fucking Earl Sweatshirt interview where he goes, I'd rather get an F than a C minus. Mm-hmm. And I think that fucking Nick opens himself up for getting Fs.
You're right.
And that's all you can ask of an artist.
You're right. It's either an F or an A+.
Yeah, man. And
I love that.
Like there's those aspects where you can like save face and like cool guy your way through shit.
Yeah.
Or you can risk it all.
That's so true. Yeah. Okay, buddy. Love you lots. Thank you for coming on.